Hello everyone. In this video, we will look at how Anuta Atom combines the power of workflow automation and service models based on Yang together in a single use case. The use case here is to automate L2 VPN service provisioning with pre-checks and post-checks. Let us see how we can realize such a use case using Atom. On the Atom UI, we are now on the L2 VPN service model, which will take all the user inputs for the service creation. As you can see here, we have the service name, the service type selected as point-to-point, and also the group of devices where we want to create this service. The group is denoted by a resource pool in Atom. The other inputs in the service includes the VC ID, which is unique. There is a customer link ID, MTU, and bandwidth details. The pseudo-wire class is set to MPLS. The service model also captures the PE details. The details of the first PE can be seen here. It takes the management IP, interface involved, the S and the C tags. Similar details are also taken for the second PE involved in the L2 VPN service. Once we enter the details and trigger the service model, the workflow involved also gets triggered. The workflow has four main parts to it. The main process is where all the high-level tasks happen. The generate payload subprocess generates the commands for L2 VPN service creation. The pre-checks and the post-checks performs the relevant validations before and after the service provisioning. The main process takes the user inputs from the service and breaks it down. For example, it fetches the PE1 IP, PE2 IP, and also the other parameters entered in the L2 VPN payload. As seen here, the same workflow will get triggered when any update or delete operations are performed on the service from the service models we saw earlier. The workflow then performs a set of pre-checks. The pre-check is a sub-workflow where it first performs a ping to the peer IP. If the peer device is reachable, then the workflow proceeds, or it exits the workflow citing that the peer is unreachable. It then checks if the VC ID is already present on the devices. If it exists, then it exits the workflow, else it proceeds to the next step. The pre-check flow also collects a copy of show logs and show running config before service provisioning. The show run output is also passed to update the data model. Once the pre-checks are successful, then the main workflow proceeds to generate the commands for L2 VPN service provisioning on both the devices. Here is a sub-workflow for generating the netconf payload for both the devices. It is divided into few tasks such as creation of QoS policies for inbound and outbound, creation of interface configuration, and finally the creation of L2 VPN service. However, the provisioning itself is gated by an approval in the main workflow. Once the approval is given, followed by the completion of provisioning tasks, the workflow proceeds to the post-checks. Here is the post-check sub-workflow. The post-checks are similar to the pre-checks where it checks the peer IP reachability, checks the status of newly provisioned L2 VPN and pseudo-wire status, pulls the latest logs and running configuration. An additional step here is a generation of configuration difference between the pre and the post show running configuration that is made available to the users. Let us now try to instantiate a new L2 VPN service using this model. On one of the PE devices, let us verify the existing services and also make sure that the specific L2 VPN service we want to configure is not present. We have all the relevant service attributes filled up. The service name and the service type can be seen here. Service-related parameters such as VC ID, MTU, bandwidth details, etc. can be seen in the subcontainer. The PE specific details are also captured as discussed earlier. Once we apply this service, the workflow involved gets triggered. As seen here, the workflow is at a stage where the pre-checks are getting executed. Let us see the different tasks getting executed as part of the workflow. If we expand the parent task, we can see that the main process workflow has started getting executed. The workflow fetches the PE1 management IP and PE2 management IP. It then triggers the pre-checks, where it fetches the loopback IP and then it checks the peer reachability, as seen here. Once the ping is successful, it checks if the existing configurations are present for the VCID chosen. So here we see that there are no configurations pertaining to the VCID we entered as the input. The workflow also gathers the show log and the show run output from the respective devices. What we are checking here is for a single device. The workflow performs the same pre-checks for the other devices involved as well. Once the pre-checks is successful, the workflow triggers an approval task. The same can be seen as part of the workflow logs. The UI also shows that the workflow is waiting for an approval to provision the L2 VPN service. We then provide the approval from Atom to take the workflow forward. The provisioning tasks have started, and we can see that the netconf payloads have been generated and pushed to the device. We can see the interface specific configurations, the QoS specific configurations, and the VPN service commands for both the PEs. In the workflow view, we are past the provisioning tasks and is now in the post-check section. On the device, we can now see that the service has been provisioned and the service is up. We are verifying this on a single device, but the same would have got provision on the other end as well. As part of the post checks, the workflow triggers some show commands to verify the server status on the devices. The output of the command can be seen here. You can see that the state of the service is up and the pseudo wire is also seen as active. The workflow also performs show run and show logs from both the devices and passes the configuration to have the latest configuration on Atom. The parent task of the workflow, it also shows that the service instantiation was successful by showing that the state of the service and the pseudo wire are up. As part of the workflow, a config diff between pre and post service provisioning show runs are also captured for users to verify. Thanks for watching.